the show. We're going to have a great show for you today. It's going to be really exciting. We have three guests today.
That's right. We have three today, right?
You know, Francoise is going to come from
place.
Revelation Vineyard. Yep. And then we're going to have Phil and Martin from Charlottesville Tree Service. We're going to talk some restaurant revitalization. There's definitely some new information coming out from there. It's going to be, for those who have been worrying a little bit about the difficulty of it, we will give you some updates there on that. It'll be a little easier than some people were expecting. So that's going to be, we have some good news on that front.
And the beauty about that really is that it really does cover, you know, it looks not just back at 2019, but at 2020. So in other words, if you started your restaurant in 2020, you
still have some options.
And I think this will be very important. One, I know we'll cover that both a little bit in English and in Spanish for those restaurants that you know obviously have.
Yes, we will be doing this
tilted,
bilingually.
So we'll do that. But yeah, this is going to be fun. I can't wait till Phil and Martin come in because you know I know they've worked on our property and I have a nice little story to tell about that.
Oh, we got some stories today.
And then here we have Francoise, who's been chatting a little bit about vineyards and how easy it is to run a vineyard. You know, you don't have to worry about bugs or freezing, frost, I should say, or other little critters and bacteria that gets into the grape. Those are things that most of us don't really have to worry about, but I'm sure she does.
Exactly. That would be fun.
It will be. It'll be very exciting.
We'll have some I think we'll have some stories today. I think for sure.
Stories are great, right?
Stories are fun. Stories are what made life exciting.
Exactly.
Afterwards.
That's right.
After you go through, when it's happening, you're like, why is this happening to me?
Right.
And then afterwards, you can laugh about it.
Exactly. So this should be good. This should be
yes.
very
So
good.
be sure to share the live feed. Be sure to comment. Let us know what you're thinking. Let us know if you have any news on any front in terms of resources for entrepreneurs. Be sure to put it in the comment section. Let us know. Let us know what you think about the restaurant revitalization that we'll talk about, and we'll definitely be putting some information in the comments for you all.
Exactly. Yeah. And any questions? Absolutely, send them through, and we'll try to handle them. If we can't, we'll figure it out.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Today y Mañana. I'm Alex. This is Xavier. Thanks so much for joining us today. As always, we are presented by Emergent Financial Services. We are powered by Cristel Noel State Farm Agency, and we are partnering with Forward Adelante, the premier Latino networking group here in Charlottesville, Virginia. And as always, we are on the I Love Seville network. So thanks so much for joining us today. We have a huge show today. It's going to be fantastic. We're going to have Francoise Mosevich from Revelation Vineyard going to be joining us. And then later on in the show, Phil Leitosh and Martin Bush from Charlottesville Tree Service will be joining us. So when we're going to start, of course, we've got some huge news coming out, because I think we've been talking resources for entrepreneurs, Latino entrepreneurs, any kind of entrepreneur recently, and one of the ones that has popped up a lot is restaurants. I mean, we've talked with some restaurant owners that, you know, just about the difficulties, the challenges that they faced in 2020, and they're continuing to face
probably
this year.
The industry that maybe had the most challenges. I mean, obviously airlines and hotels, et cetera,
anything. I think hospitality, airlines,
but
hotels,
certainly the restaurants, and part of it because. Remember, you're shut down, then you start again, and then you shut down again, and we all know that food doesn't last forever, right? So
exactly.
The minute you open up and all of a sudden you buy all the food you need and they shut you down again, there's a lot of waste there. But before we even start, I just wanted to congratulate Jerry Miller on his announcement for running for the Board of Supervisors in Albemarle County. I think. You know, and I'm excited about it only because, I mean, he's a very energetic person, as we all know. He's got business acumen, which I think is very important. When you think about governments, running a government, it's almost like running a business. It's not a daycare center. Let's be honest. Mm-hmm. Running a government is about how do we take that community forward, both from a perspective of make everybody's lives better.
Exactly.
And part of it is from an economic point of view, how do we make everybody become I don't want to use the word wealthier, but become better involved in what they're doing, what they love to do, so they themselves can have a good life. And I think he can bring a lot of creative ideas to the table. I know he loves Charlesville. He loves the outdoors, and he loves the community. So I think it's going to be great. So congratulations, Jerry, on that.
It'll be exciting. It'll be exciting. And if you can hear a tar in the distance, I can assure you that is not Xavier's tar. He has behaved today. So he did not leave his car on to be making noise.
I didn't press that little alarm button and say, "Let's see what happens if I hit that." Okay.
Let's see what we can do in today's show. So it's that is exciting news. Just remember, I mean, I feel like it's all of what we're all about on the show. Is just how can we uplift the community? How can we really help all these wonderful entrepreneurs that live here thrive? Yes. And so it's exciting to see just people that have, like Jerry, that have the passion to do that.
That's right.
In all fields.
Exactly. All right, so you want to start with the restaurant?
Speaking of surviving and just really and hopefully thriving in this new 2020, we have some big news. For those who have been following, I mean, there's been a new push for a restaurant revitalization fund, and that's coming out of the past stimulus packages, the American Rescue Plan, as they call it. So there's going to be a $28 billion fund. There's no start date on this yet. But when it does begin, we'll be sure to let you know, and there's going to be a 21-day period that's really going to emphasize small business owners. So we just wanted to sort of get ahead of this and really put the news out there for restaurant owners in the community, for small business owners that are in that space. So food truck, restaurant, catering, any kind of that area, you are eligible if you fit the other requirements here.
Wine tasting, I mean, taverns, I mean, it's incredible. The reach is enormous, and I think it's going to help a lot of people.
It is going to be very helpful. And there was news, so the key thing is there was news for a while that you were going to need a DUNS number and a SAMS number, which are business identification numbers.
I love that word, DUNS number.
Fortunately,
DUNS.
There's been some great advocacy there. Thank goodness. Can you imagine having everyone have to try to figure out how to get a DUNS and a SAMS? I didn't even know what SAMS was prior to looking up how do I tell people how to get a SAMS number. But fortunately, there's been great advocacy there, and that won't be necessary.
Okay.
It is looking like for this.
That's
the
good.
key things for the Restaurant Revitalization Fund, and we're going to repeat this in English and Spanish, vamos a repetirlo en inglés en español, is that if your business was in operation in 2019, you're basically going to be eligible for the difference between your 2019 gross receipts and your 2020 gross receipts. If you were not in business in 2019, let's say you started last year, I know there's a lot in our community that started
we
just last year. I mean, we know quite a few. Then you're going to be basically looking at your gross receipts minus certain eligible expenses, and you're going to be compensated for that. In other words, what were my expenses minus my receipts in 2020, and the government will compensate. The SBA, Small Business Administration, will help compensate you. So this works somewhat like a PPP, a second draw of a paycheck protection, and obviously they will remove from what you're receiving, anything you receive from paycheck protection.
Well, in addition, one of the things that I also read, I think is right, is, for example, let's say in 2019 you were only in business 6 months. So you're going to take those 6 months, multiply by 2, so assuming it's 12 months, and that's going to be your expenses, right?
Exactly,
so you can
that's
use
correct.
That. So even if you were in business just 1 month, you take that 1 month, right? You look at your cost, right? And then you multiply that by 12 and say, and your revenue is multiplied by 12, and you say, here we are. This is the number I'm going to use. So there's a lot of flexibility here. That's what's important.
There is, exactly. And if you did receive Paycheck Protection Program, that does not mean you are not eligible. What will just happen is that what you receive via PPP will probably be deducted from the amount that you're eligible to receive from this fund. Key thing, remember, first 21-day periods, they are going to be prioritizing small businesses owned and controlled by women, veterans, or socially and economically disadvantaged groups. So that you're Latino entrepreneurs, you're minority entrepreneurs. So you're definitely going to be eligible for prioritized in the first 21 days. So we will keep you updated on that. We're a great resource for that on the show. Watch us here. You can always call us at Emergent Financial Services. Other great resources, New Hill Development Corp. has been really on top of this. Small Business Development Center. They're hosted by CIC. As we talked with Carolina just last week, you can always call there, talk to Carolina, and she'll be able to get you in touch with the right person to talk to at SBDC, which has done great work making sure there's a lot of information on this on their site and other resources that you can get if you've struggled in 2020, 2021 as a small business. No sé qué vamos a repetirlo
Sí,
en
no,
español.
cómo no. Entonces, pues, hemos aprendido que la Asociación Nacional de Restaurantes está ofreciendo becas son fondos de revitalización para restaurantes, para varias, también para puestos de comida, camiones de comida, bars, tabernas, y lo importante aquí es que estos fondos, como digo, son una beca, ¿no? Así que no son un préstamo, son becas. Segundo, creo que por ahora, por lo que dijo Alex antes, es más fácil en este minuto tratar de obtener estas becas. Primero querían unos números que se llaman Don y Sam, que son muy difíciles de conseguir, pero gracias a Dios eso no es la situación. Lo que va a pasar es, por ejemplo, si usted tenía ya su negocio en 2019, pues todos los gastos que tenían, que son elegibles en ese periodo, entonces los compara con el año 2020 y la diferencia es lo que pueden obtener, ¿no? Por ejemplo, también si solamente tenían el restaurante o el negocio por 6 meses en 2019, pues lo que pueden hacer es tomar los gastos de esos 6 meses, multiplicarlos por 2, como si hubiese sido un año completo, y esa es la diferencia entre lo que pudieron obtener en 2020 y 2019. Así que hay maneras diferentes de obtener esta clase de ayuda, y bueno, lo importante es que creo que hay una ventana de 21 días. Esta ventana no está abierta todavía, pero es importante estar preparado para esto. Es decir, si tenéis números. Otra cosa, por ejemplo, si empezaron su negocio en 2020 y tienen ciertos gastos, estos gastos es importante de decidir cuántos son los gastos, y esto es lo que tienen que tener para dar al fondo para decir: estos fueron mis gastos de 2020, entonces los podrán ayudar. Así que, y no solamente eso, creo que he leído que si querían empezar el restaurante o el negocio en 2021 y los gastos fueron en 2020, también pueden obtener parte de la beca. Así que es importante, ahora que ya sabéis la información, empezar a buscar los números, estar preparados para cuando hay la solicitud que serán 21 días.
Habrá una ventana de 21 días que la prioridad será dueños pequeños, negocios pequeños, negocios cuyos dueños son latinos, minorías,
o de mujeres
o de veteranos.
Muy bien. Entonces eso es lo importante. Los primeros 21 días será aplicables precisamente para estos negocios pequeños, y es lo más importante. Muy bien. Entonces pues nosotros, a medida que aprendemos más información, la podremos...
Vamos a compartir con ustedes, por seguro. That's the goal of the show, to make sure we're just sharing the information, making sure that all of us, Latino entrepreneurs, every entrepreneur in Charlottesville, can get access to the help that they need. Because that's the lifeblood. That's the lifeblood of the economic community here, and we want to make sure it continues to succeed.
And that's what's important. Forward. I mean, we've made this case many times. It's the small business that's really struggled, right? The large businesses seem to have flourished, if anything else, right? But the small businesses have really been hit hard by this pandemic. So it's wonderful to see these type of help, so that these small businesses can hopefully get off the ground and get going here in 2021.
And can grow and thrive.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is the goal. Be sure if you have other news, share it with us in the comments. Other resources that you know about, be sure to let us know. We'll share them on air. Be sure to share today's show with your friends, with anyone who you think could benefit from knowing about this, from access to the fund, and then we can put you in touch with even more knowledgeable resources than ourselves on just all the different small business resources in the community that they're there. We've got some people already excited for today's first interview. We've got Jerry Miller saying he's very grateful for us. Thank you. Thank you, Jerry, of course. Pauline Brunetti says hello. Hello, Pauline. Thank you for watching the show today. So I think we definitely have an exciting crowd ready for our first guest.
Who actually can benefit probably from this, right?
Possibly,
because they're a vineyard, right? And if they have a tasting room or anything like that, that can be helpful. So who knows, but...
Exactly. But we're excited to welcome to the show today Françoise Seye-Moisevich. I'm hoping I did that correctly. I had a little lesson.
That's why I let you do that. I'm just going to say Françoise.
That's why you let me take this. So we're going to welcome Françoise to the show. Thank you so much for joining us today, Françoise.
Thank you for inviting me.
So, tell us a little about yourself. For those that don't know Revelation Vineyard, did you always have a passion for making wine, or how did it come about that you came to start this vineyard here in our local community?
So I didn't grow up in the wine industry. I actually grew up in a country that did not produce wine until fairly recently. So it's a fairly new passion. Not drinking wine, that's been
a long
passion. older passion. So we came to it, my husband and I, gradually. We lived in California for a while, and we really enjoyed the wine industry there. And it also gave us the idea that maybe one day in our retirement we would possibly start a vineyard. Then we moved away from California, sort of forgot about the idea, but continued our wine tasting, wine knowledge, whatever we could. And then we moved to DC for jobs. And we took one so-called fatal trip to Virginia that made us fall in love with Madison County. And then we decided that we would buy a property that would be our weekend home, and that we would try to start a small vineyard for the weekend. And then one thing led to another. You can't really have a vineyard, a weekend vineyard.
No,
Mother Nature doesn't
That's right,
stop during the week when you have another job.
Yeah.
So if you're going to be semi-serious about it, you really need to follow up. And then we realized that our original property was not the best for a vineyard, so we acquired the next hill, which is perfect, and that's where all our production is coming from at the moment. And then, get to middle age, I guess, and decide that maybe you'd like to not be in that same job anymore. So I retired from my academic position and to devote my time to the vineyard. And so the other step is that we bought another property where we have a vineyard and a tasting room now. And now we are about to launch into the construction of our winery, the production facility.
Okay.
Beautiful.
So it was, it was a path, a meandering path to where we are.
So let me get this straight. So you left California, which growing grapes, I would assume, is so much easier than Virginia, and then you come to Virginia. Well, you went to D.C., but you come to Virginia and you decide to grow grapes, which, we all know how easy it is to grow things in Virginia because, there's humidity, there's bugs, there's deer, there's squirrels, there's turkeys, right? So tell us a little bit about the challenges of growing, grapes in Virginia, and I guess what type of grapes are best.
I'll take the first question.
Go for the first one.
How easy it is to grow grapes in Virginia? It's not easy. I don't think it's easy anywhere except maybe California, where you don't really need to spray very much. However, they don't have any water, and we do have water. And we don't have fires, so we can. We have advantages in this environment. There are, the humidity is an issue, so you have to keep on top of all the fungus that are lurking around. We also have Tales of Hurricanes at the end of the season, so just about when we are about to harvest,
Right.
which is really interesting. But some years are absolutely fantastic, like 2019. I'm not saying it was an easy year, but it was less hard. And we produced amazing wines. Last year we had spring frost, so it's not so easy between now, so whatever date we are today, April 7th, I think.
April 8th today, yes, that's right.
Yeah, I'm still yesterday.
Time flies,
yeah.
that's all I know.
And Mother's Day, we had at our vineyard 8 frost episodes.
Wow. Last year, in May.
Yes.
Wow.
So end of April, beginning of May, and the worst one was actually Mother's Day morning. So we tried to do everything, but we lost about half of our crop.
Whoa.
Which is sad, but we have friends that lost absolutely everything.
Okay.
So we are very lucky that we managed to make some wine last year. So it is not easy to do agriculture in Virginia, but that's, I think every place has a challenge. So what grapes are really adapted? We are really blessed in Virginia with a really great extension office, the Virginia Tech Extension Network, and with the Research Institute, research station in Winchester. And they did trials. They did variety trials. They take a long time. But about 10 years ago, they tried a few varieties like Petit Mensong and Tana, and they realized that they are really good varieties to grow now.
Okay.
And now they're doing new trials starting last year or this year for varieties that might be better adapted to climate change. So we have the whole industry, the whole viticulture scene in Virginia is really benefiting from the research from Virginia Tech. So we were lucky that we didn't start our vineyard in the early 90s, and that we only started it in 2006. And so we could benefit from a lot of knowledge of people, of growers that were the real pioneers in Virginia, as well as from the Virginia Tech research. So we did plant Petit Mensong, we did plant Tana, and they're doing fabulously well. Tana is actually less difficult to grow in Virginia than some of the other varieties. So we took that information and to decide what to plant.
Right.
But also you have to also decide what kind of wine you like to drink. So if I can't find...
You mean red versus white? Or?
Oh, no, the types of...
No, I know.
Yeah, so, there are some varieties that I'm not... I wouldn't know how to make a good wine from, because they haven't been around for that long. So I'm thinking about varieties that I encountered in Belgium, for example, Solaris. I wouldn't know what kind of wine to make from that. So my husband and I decided that we would stick with mostly Vitis vinifera, which are just the usual varieties, Chardonnay, Merlot, Pinot Gris, Viognier. So we stuck to those. We have also Cabernet Sauvignon. We have a couple of hybrids because we tried to grow a lot of things on that experimental vineyard at first, and we realized that a lot of varieties were not doing well. So we got rid of everything and planted a hybrid, which is Vidal Blanc, which is doing very well for us. Last year, in our new vineyard, we planted Albarino. We'll see how it goes.
Albarino, Nicholas, my brother, who who helped us put together this interview. He would be very excited. He's a
Yeah.
big fan of Albarino.
And
It is.
why we planted Albarino is that I fell in love with the taste of the wine. And so that's, personal choice, personal taste, also guided.
That's important, right? I mean, if you grow something that you really like, I'm assuming that's even better.
So
As long as
somebody,
you don't drink it all, right?
yeah, if I can't sell it, I have to drink it.
So, I mean, what are some of the things that you you can sell that you definitely enjoy the wine, the process of doing the grapes and deciding what wines to do? Are there any other aspects of like being an entrepreneur and owning a vineyard that you really enjoy?
Well, I really like the fact that if I have an idea, I can pursue it, and I can develop it to the best of my ability. I don't have any hindrance. Of course, money is always a hindrance, but funding is a hindrance, sometimes some red tape. But before you get there, you have an idea, you have start a project, you can really develop opportunities for yourself. And I like problem solving. And problem solving maybe is a big word, but I like being able to hop over barriers, and that's fun to me. Also, I like the freedom to collaborate with other businesses, and especially during this pandemic, we've tried to do that. So we like supporting the local community, and through the business, we try to do that. So as an entrepreneur, I can use the business not only to benefit the corporation and its employees, but also the local community, in terms of holding benefits, helping artist communities, selling local food items, having a pop-up store so that we can have people every weekend, artisans and craftsmen and farmers sell their wares where they couldn't really do that during this pandemic because shows, craft shows were canceled.
Exactly.
Farmers market were going, but they were difficult to the logistics of them is not so easy. So I like that aspect that I can use my business to support those around us. And also if I have an idea, I can follow it up. I don't have to ask a boss. Of course, I have to consult with my husband, but I can push it and I can present a concept, an idea, and then see how it goes.
That's amazing. That's such a beautiful thing about really entrepreneurship that it's not. I think sometimes people have the mistake of thinking, well, when you don't start your own business, it becomes all about, well, just my business. But it really doesn't. I mean, so many entrepreneurs, we care about other businesses and helping them grow, and we're able to do it in a really unique way because we're in charge of our own company.
No, absolutely.
And our own business. Oh, we definitely have some fans here. We have Rosalia de Rosalia Tordado says, beautiful story, Francoise, good luck. And when you do your job with passion, everything will go fantastic. Oh, she wants you to send, she wants to know when you will send wine in New York.
I can send one to New York now.
Oh, already, Rosalia, you can have wine sent to New York. Trudy Lloyd says, great to see you live, Francoise. You tell your story so well. You're a great business and brand ambassador.
Thank you.
So that's definitely true. You can see the passion come through. So, I mean, I just tell us a little bit more about how you navigated 2020, because I know you mentioned that you were able to be a safe place for other businesses, artisans to show their wares, and that. How did you, for your own business in terms of selling wine or people coming to the tasting room, how were you able to navigate the trickiness of last year and even into this year?
Well, it was difficult, but I think in adjusting to forever changing rules and regulations was tricky.
Yep.
However, in the wine industry, we are blessed with another organization in Virginia, which is the Virginia Wineries Association, and they really stepped up. They had Zoom calls every week with a lawyer, Mary Beth Williams, who's on retainer with the association, to help us navigate what these rules meant in a very practical way. Mm-hmm. And after those calls, then I could reflect and discuss with Julian, my husband, what we could do and what we were willing to do and what we couldn't do. So we closed for a while completely, mm-hmm. and then just reopened for pickup. And then that's when we decided that we could do deliveries. We could do deliveries in the vicinity, right. So in Madison County, but I also spent a couple of days a week in D.C. because my husband still has practice in D.C., so I thought I can also deliver in D.C. So our customers actually supported us that way. Then we reopened when we thought that we could reopen in a safe way. We don't do tastings anymore, like the traditional tastings right. where you pour each wine. We have flights, so we had to adjust to that. You have to find a vehicle for glasses or cups or whatever. Okay. Mm-hmm. We wanted to make sure that we were not going to fill up the landfill with lots of plastic. Mm-hmm. So we only started offering flights once we were fairly confident completely confident actually, that we could use our own glasses, and or people could bring their own glasses, sure, and then we could use them. Because we only offered bottle sales at first, which was tricky because new customers don't know the wine. Mm-hmm, yep. Do you want to buy a bottle if you really don't know?
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So,
yeah, it's very difficult.
that was difficult, and that. But then when we reopened, for tastings, then we were able to use our glasses. That really helped. And then we stopped our regular activities. Like we usually have a benefit for the Literacy Council with a author series. We had to cancel that altogether, but we could still display the artists on one wall of the cabin, even though everything is all the business is conducted outside. People still need to come in to go to the bathroom or to come and pay, so they can still see. They can still see. And then I had employees who didn't want to come back to work, so I had to recruit new employees. And one of them is actually a fabulous furniture maker whose shows were canceled. Wow. And so that gave us the idea of doing the pop-up so that she could show her wonderful pieces and hopefully sell. And then on one weekend, and then since she did it, then we thought, maybe other people could do it also. So we had jewelers, farmers, wood turners, different crafts, fiber artists. And then the next thing was to see what we could use for snacks and food with the wine. And again, we looked to the local community for cheeses, and I make some of the items, but that's how we navigated, tried to
that's awesome.
help us and help others.
It's a great story.
Yeah, it's a great story. It's nice. I mean, it's nice to see people survive. People, you have like you said, you had a dream, and and you followed that dream even at a later age. It's like nice to be able to say later age like mine, to be able to say this is something that I like, and let me do something in that fashion, and make it work. So and it's like especially when it comes to wine, if you like to drink it, that can become a passion very quickly,
exactly.
right?
So thank you so much for joining us, Françoise. It's been a real pleasure.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And yeah, that was fun. And I still there was even later there's still some comments coming in for Francoise. Definitely people congratulating her. Some of them are in French, so I will not be able.
So you're not
to.
going to say them?
I'm
Come
not
on,
going
try.
to read.
Try
I
your
will not
best.
attempt to read the entire thing, but basically again saying what a great brand ambassador she was, and wishing her congratulations, and what a great enterprise, what a great business.
Exactly.
Revelation Vineyard is. So be sure to check it out. Nicholas was very pleased. He said we were correct that they love Albarino, that he loves Albarino. So and he says it was very inspiring. So Nick was very pleased. I could
Nick
tell.
was pleased, yes. Well,
with this interview.
We'll have to try one of those bottles.
Exactly.
It's
Well,
in Madison
we'll have
County,
to
so
get
it's
him an
not-
Albarino.
It's not too far away.
Yeah,
right?
we'll have
So-
to get him an Albarino just to say
Exactly.
thank you.
Exactly.
You know, there's not, and it really is just amazing to see different entrepreneurs, not just going through tough times, but also then connecting with others, growing their business, admiring the way that I love when she said like to be able to take an idea and pursue it,
Right.
and not have to worry about the red tape, other than asking her husband for his counsel. on
Well,
that.
listen, in every business, there's some challenges, and of course,
Exactly.
listen, growing grapes, I grow a few vegetables here and there. I know the challenges, grow vegetables, or a tomato, so growing grapes.
There's always a challenge, for sure. And speaking of challenge, we got another set of entrepreneurs here. This is going to be.
This is a different challenge.
This is a different challenge.
Yeah. I got to tell a story. I mean, here we have Martin and Phil.
Martin,
right?
so
Hello,
Phil
guys.
Whitetosh, Martin Bush, Charlottesville Tree Service. Guys, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you for coming by. But so last year, one of our poplar trees got hit with lightning, right? Believe it or not. And my wife actually saw it. She said, I think one of the trees got hit by lightning. I'm saying, yeah, come on, give me a break. What's the chances of that, right? But the neighbor actually caused it. One of the trees don't look very well. So I kept looking up. I said, I don't see anything. But when I got closer to the tree, there was a huge burn mark at the bottom. And you could see the crack come down right in the middle of the tree.
Remember, that thing was crazy.
Right? So I reached out to a few people in Charlottesville Tree Service, and Tripp came out. The nice thing is he came out exactly when he said he was come out. So he got there on time. He was there. And he walks around the back and he says, yeah, this thing, I mean, it's got to come down, right? So he goes, we have different ways. We can, go up there, cut it up into pieces and bring it down, or we can, just let it fall. And I'm saying, me, it's like, what's the cheapest? I said, what's the most frugal way to do this? He goes, we could just cut it down and let it fall. I'm looking, I'm saying, let this thing fall. I mean, this thing's like 90 feet tall. This is not like a little, right? It's huge. So then he says, yeah, we can do this. And there was a couple other trees that, looked half dead. I said, how about that one? That one says, yeah, put it this way, put it that way. I said, okay, no problem, let's do it. Then all of a sudden, Martin comes with this crew, right? And I go to Martin, I said, Martin, let me just tell you, this guy's got to go that way, that guy's got to go. And he's looking at me, he's like, first of all, I know my job, okay? And second of all, because I'm telling him this because I'm looking, I'm saying, this huge poplar, it's got maybe like 12 inches of give on either side. Because if they don't get it right, then that tree's coming down, and that other tree's going to knock down. I'm saying it's going to be a mess back here, right?
With your expertise.
And of course, first thing he says is, well, let me just say, see this crack down here? Because the biggest worry was, is it going to hit the house? Because there was a house next door, right? So if it went the wrong way, and then it hits the house, right? So he says, there's a big crack in the middle, and we have to make sure we do this right, because once you start cutting that tree, you don't know. Now, of course, now I'm getting nervous. I'm saying, uh-oh. But I tell you, I don't know exactly who did all the cutting and the wedging, whatever, but whoever it was, and I know Martin was there, boom. I mean, exactly what they said. I don't know how these guys do it, but I mean, it's terrific. What you guys do is really unbelievable, but, and I know you're a veteran-run firm, and tell us a little bit about yourselves and how you started this company, but, it's fantastic so far what I've seen.
Well, first I'll say is I think my biggest concern was actually getting killed by that tree, not the neighbor's house.
Gee, thank you, Mark.
But it did go well. It was great. So, yeah, thank you guys for having us here.
Yeah.
I guess I can say a little bit. So I was active duty Army, as was Tripp, the third of the Three Stooges, can't be with us. But so I did about 4 years active Army, and then got out, joined the Guard, and actually started a construction company with my brother. So this is my second kind of business venture here. But bounced around, ended up working for the government, really good job, great benefits. DA civilian where, I will hit retirement unless I kill somebody first or fall asleep at my desk. Well, those are the kind of two that'll get you fired. But, I've known Phil for a long time. We've known each other
30 years.
30 some odd years. And he had been, pestering me to get off the government teat, and let's do something. He was an entrepreneur already. And so we've been brainstorming all different ideas. I think we had talked about custom forestry and timber milling and all kinds of things, but ended up on urban forestry. And I don't know if you want to talk a little bit why we chose that one. But.
Well, it kind of fit with what we were doing. Actually, honestly, the biggest thing was the barrier to entry in terms of cost, overhead,
I can think so.
Was relatively low. Because we had been looking at doing like low impact logging, forestry management stuff, but you start talking about large equipment and, when I was kind of adding up the scope of capital expenditure to get it going, it was hundreds of thousands of dollars, whereas we were able to start with, I think it was about $10,000 to $15,000 just start our business.
Okay.
And so that was really, and it was in the tree arena, which was an aspect that we liked. I have a custom sawmill at my home, and that's one of the things I've loved doing.
Okay.
We've all done firewood. And then I've also, at my place, I've been clearing pasture land. So I'd been kind of building on kind of just experience of like, okay, we're doing a lot of felling, doing some milling, so we're doing a lot with wood. We're outside, enjoying that. I have a background in industrial rope access, so using ropes to access unique structures and that sort of stuff. So it just ended up being a fit for us in terms of we can get into the climbing side of arboristry.
Right.
From that experience. We like doing the just working outside and working with wood, and we like working with each other. I mean, that's one as we've been growing. We've had days where, like Martin and I, like we're working at different sites with different crews, and at the end, especially if we have a week of that, I'll come back to Martin and say, hey, we made good money. I don't want to do that again, because part of what I really like doing is working with you and with Tripp, and so it's kind of, at the moment, we're in that balance of how do we grow, but how do we actually enjoy what we're doing too?
Well, one of the things I noticed is when Tripp came down and talked to me about, and I know you guys are coming also do some other work, but it's his knowledge about trees that really caught my attention. It's not just here's a tree, how do I cut it down? Here's how we do it, but his knowledge about the different trees. I mean, he knew every tree, and I said, is that tree over there? Is that like dying or is it alive? What's the story? So he's able to give me some information about the tree. It's the health of the tree, and I think that's important because listen, I'm from New York, so I'm a city guy, right? So I see a tree, it's a tree, right? So now I'm here in Virginia.
So you didn't fact check him on these tree identification?
I'm not sure he was in a position to do any fact checking.
No, I didn't.
That sounds good to me.
He really knew what he was talking about. That's great.
Well, I'm sure hoping. Well, it looked good.
Yeah. Well, and kind of to what you're sort of talking about, one of the things that we've been really blessed with is when we first started, one of the things that we said the ideal thing for us would be to find a arborist that's looking to get out of business, that's older, looking to retire, but not fully retire, and essentially either sell us his business or kind of do some sort of joint thing. And we talked about that early, and I don't say we forgot about it, but has it been 2 years now? Almost?
Yeah, it's been about 2 years.
About 2 years ago, we got a call from somebody looking for different arborists to do some pruning for a client of his. And so we got, I don't know why, but he loved us. And so, but we have ended up actually just falling into that perfect relationship where he's a retired guy that's been doing tree work in the area since the 80s and has just, so that kind of that knowledge that Tripp had when he came to you, that's been developed in us, especially because we've had this real good mentoring and still have this really fantastic mentoring situation. Because I feel like the business side, Martin and I both had different enterprises before, so there's part of that we understand, but it's the technical part of what are these what are these living things that we're dealing with, and they're different, and that we've just been really fortunate to have a great mentor.
So let me ask you a question. So every time there's a thunderstorm around here, do you guys like open up champagne and say, this is great? I mean, is that how it works?
Kind of, yeah.
Yeah, you know, weather's weird because it's either we don't work because the weather.
Yeah,
You know, it's too wet. It's
That's
just
right.
too much of a mess getting in people's yards, or it's a boon for our business. And you know, unlike that great government job I had with all those benefits, you know, no work, no pay.
That's right, exactly.
With this,
Exactly.
so.
Yeah. So what would you say? I mean, what would you say is your most difficult task? I mean, obviously, I mean, you know, 100-foot poplar to me looks like a daunting task. Whether you're, you know, whether you let it fall on the ground and it goes boom, or whether you're going up there and cutting it pieces. What would you say is the most challenging and also I guess the riskiest for you from perspective of safety?
Safety. I would say we probably would all have different opinions or items. Mine, to me, is towing. Anytime we get in a vehicle and move from site to site, towing vehicles, that is, I feel like that's the part that's going to get us, potentially put us out of business, is if we're hauling a load of logs and we didn't check and make sure the trailer is hooked up right, and we lose that. You know, you don't hear about that very often, but
that's true.
That's my number one paranoia for the business, is that's what's going to, not dropping something on somebody's house. It's having something go while we're in transit between jobs and the shops.
Yeah, and I think kind of along the same lines of not specifically answering your question or not with the answer you thought, I think the logistic coordination is probably the most challenging aspect. You know, from scheduling, making sure that, you know, we're syncing up with the client schedule, our subcontractor schedule if we're working with cranes, having the right tools there, the right people. We don't have a shop currently, or a central location, which just complicates things. So we have gear spread out between our 3 different houses, locations, and so that's probably the most emotionally taxing and mentally taxing. I think when you get into the actual job, typically it's generally straightforward. There are those jobs where you're very happy to get out of the tree at the end of the day, or have the tree on the ground safely, and you know, go drink a little bit of water and calm down. But I think the other challenge is just with, as we grow, Phil's oldest is working for us. We have a couple other full-time employees, and we've had, probably 3 or 4 other, if not more, kind of come and go throughout the last couple of years. But it's the risk factor to the employees that really kind of keeps us up at night, where it's a trade-off between, we want to give them time on the saw, develop them, get to a point where we can actually hand off the business to them in a lot of ways, or step back. And yet we don't want to be putting them into a position where we're having to go home and, you know, tell Amy, Phil's wife, why Jaden's not coming home at the end of the day. So it's,
of course, yeah. I mean, you guys work with, let's see, I mean, equipment that is very dangerous. I mean, those saws are pretty big and pretty powerful. So I would assume that, you know, the safety feature is very important.
Right.
Well, the last couple of days, actually, I don't know if it's the most challenging, but probably my favorite, are very technical rigging jobs, where in both cases we didn't actually have to climb the tree, but we had to set rigging lines in multiple trees and use every piece of gear we had to safely, you know, winch the tree out of another tree it may have been resting in, and get it down into the ground. But you know, those fun kind of engineering, problem-solving jobs like that are.
Well, one of you is an engineer, right? 'Cause, I mean,
that's
me. So you're the one that is the, I'm not going to say the brains behind the operation. You know?
You can say it.
He likes to think so.
I like to think so.
At least
I like to be told that.
Who's coming to work tomorrow? I'm trying to figure out if it's you, Martin. I don't want to say, yeah, he's not. He's just the guy that knocks down the tree.
So I noticed on your website, are all 3 of you were paratroopers, or just
So just Trip and I.
Trip and you were the paratroopers? Does that help at all, since you used to like?
You know, Trip probably has the most time jumping from aircraft. I think I only got 9 jumps in my Army career. He had more than that. and yet he's the least comfortable in the trees. So, not to brag on Trip, that's just because we've had him doing all the quotes. But Trip and I have talked about it, where it's like, man, we've done this. We've jumped out of aircraft. We've rappelled out of helicopters, and yet you get into a tree, and it's your tie-in point is unknown. You know, the health of the tree, is it going to fail on you? Yeah, it's a different game.
But I assume when you're jumping out of the plane, you got parachutes, right?
You do, yeah.
Okay.
And you hope it's going to open.
Yeah, you hope, okay. Yeah. There's another risk factor.
That's right.
Still hoping.
This is going to open, that's right. Well, up on the tree, I mean, now do you tie yourselves up in such a way that if you slip, you don't fall, or?
So you're always tied in at least once, and if you're cutting, you know, we have to be tied in a second time in case you hit your primary climbing line and cut that. We have a backup climbing line, and that's you know, industry standard. Anytime you're using a power saw, you have to have a second tie-in point. Right. And I'm sure you know Phil could hit on more, but the on the industrial rope access, kind of how the standards are even higher and known tie-in points.
Well, and that's so I've had 25 years of doing engineering rope work, so doing like facade inspections from ropes, and in that environment it's just and that was kind of getting a little more comfortable doing the trees. Is, you know, when you're tying off on a building, you know, hey, this anchor, I can easily tell that this is going to hold 10,000 pounds. In a tree, you get down to like 3 inches or so, and you're like, well, so your anchors is the biggest thing of like the unknown factor of, and I think the biggest risk. So when we go up, we're always, before we start climbing, you're checking the base of the tree to see, hey, is it healthy? You know, is the whole thing going to tip over if we start rigging into it or hanging from it? You know, we do a bounce test on the anchor. We try to get a piggyback, you know, where you have 2 guys loading the line. So there's things we can do as a standard, but it's that's the biggest difference probably with jumping out of the plane too. It's like the tree, there's so many different varieties, and sometimes you actually can't see really well what your rope is going around in the tree. So it's I don't know. So that ends up being a big safety risk that we try to mitigate that as much as possible, you know. So
Of course, yeah.
Question. So we've got a comment here, a question from a viewer, Fud Guy. He wants to know, do you guys move trees? So if he has a tree planted in one house and he would like to move somewhere, transplanted and moved somewhere else, do you guys do that?
We haven't gotten into it at all yet. I mean, that is definitely part of the industry, and I think, you know, whether it's planting or transplanting, there's a lot of growth opportunities for us, but we don't currently do that. And depending on the size of the tree, it gets very, very expensive. I know, you know, sometimes when you have these historic, you know, ancient trees and a university is expanding, they'll try to move the tree, and it's, you know, I'm sure hundreds of thousands of dollars to do it right.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That could be a big crane, I assume, pulling that thing up.
To get the tree out and moved to another place. That's amazing. So on the business side of being like, what are some of the things that I guess maybe either were unexpected or that were an entrepreneur challenge, like maybe in terms of not what you do in the tree part, but on the behind the scenes of running a business like this? What was sort of unexpected or challenging that you guys have overcome in that way?
I think so. Kind of out of the gate, what was really helpful for us was none of us needed the business to succeed to support our families. Martin was working full-time. Tripp was still in the Army. I had whatever else I was doing. But we just didn't need the business to be successful out of the gate. And so we were able to work kind of a couple years without really, I mean, I don't think we had cut a check to ourselves for a year and a half or more. And so, but with that too, kind of the organization aspect, Tripp was doing almost all the administrative because for a year, he was down in Mississippi with the Army before he got out. So he was doing all of that remotely. And Martin and I, the task of actually completing the work fell on us here in Charlottesville. When he came back, we kind of still had that arrangement. And I feel like it was sometime earlier this year or late last year, we had it, or whenever it was, we kind of had, or no, it was about this time last year, we had we just sort of reorganized what we were doing and kind of split our tasks. So I took over all the accounting, bookkeeping, and kind of that aspect of the business and just kind of tracking the money. Tripp really just took over doing sales, which is part of, like, that's been our biggest thing. Is like, hey, there's a lot of guys that do tree stuff. There's a lot of guys, I mean, kind of any industry you're going into, there's competition.
Right. Yep.
And we realized the thing that's going to set us apart is we're going to show up when we say we're going to show up.
Which is important.
Well, yeah, because that's like, you talk to most people about trying to get service guys to do stuff for them, and one, they can't find them. Two, if they contact them, they're lucky if they contact them back or show up. So it's just kind of that responsiveness. We realize that's the thing that's who we want to be. We want to be the guys that are incredibly responsive. And on the sales side, that meant really sort of freeing Tripp up to go and just do sales. So, and then we shifted the logistics of scheduling and making sure that all the stuff is at the jobs and the jobs run smoothly. That fell on Martin. So kind of that three-way division between the three of us, I feel has really put us, kind of made
all the business admin side of it, the accounting and.
Right, yeah, Tripp was dealing with all that, and so it's kind of, and now I'm,
right.
Yeah, so it's just, I think last year we saw a real smoothing of our workflow and our efficiency and therefore profitability. And I think going forward is
aligning people with their skills and their experience and their, I mean, Tripp, people love Tripp. And, it really does put kind of our best foot forward from a sales standpoint. And, I struggle with the quotes because it's the pressure of like putting a price tag on something, and I want to be like, well, you tell me.
How much will you pay?
Right. And when we first started out, many of our jobs were either friends or referrals of friends, and so it has that added pressure, right? Of, you want to give your friend a good deal, but we got to make sure we're making money, and you want them to think they're getting a good deal, right? Like all those
avoiding the
things.
undersell like undersell yourself.
Right.
To sell yourself
Exactly.
short of what you're worth.
Yeah.
So we had started, at least for me, I started liking the time and material jobs because it's like, hey, look, this is our hourly rate, and we'll give you a few hours at that rate, and if you like it, we'll keep going. But now I think I'm probably just happy with Tripp doing the quotes. But the T&M, the downside is then the client is sitting there watching you and watching their clock or watching their wristwatch, and seeing the price tag go up. And this is a lesson I learned too late with my construction company when I started, but really, you got to charge enough for the client to be happy and for their satisfaction, right?
Yep.
If you're not charging enough, no one's going to be happy at the end of the day.
Exactly. Yeah.
And we're not the cheapest guys out there, but that's not our product. We don't want to be doing cheap work. We want to make sure that we can, leave you happy with the work we do and really leave the site clean and do what we can.
Well, listen, the important thing, and it's what certainly attracted me to you guys, first of all, you have the service. And as you mentioned, I mean, you call, you set a date, and you're there on time, right? And that's important because, I also work, right? So that means I have to take a day off or half a day off or whatever time off, and you sit there and somebody doesn't show up, and now you're upset, right? And from New York, we'd use another word. But anyway, so we're upset, right? And so it's nice to have that going for you, the service. And, certainly the price I thought was a good price as far as I was concerned.
Which takes
also,
a lot.
Which means a lot for me. Yeah, for me, that's right. For this guy, that means a lot. But the important thing is also you're reachable. I can talk to you guys. I was there when you were cutting down the tree, and I said, "You mind if I watch you guys?" Other guys would say, "No, you get out of here. We got to do our stuff." I just, not because I want to make sure you're doing it right, because I have no clue what you're doing, but just because I enjoy watching. Right? It just what you guys to me is amazing. Yeah. So you're approachable, and so it shows. So I thank you for that, and I know you guys will do very well, and it's an interesting. How you guys start your business is a little interesting and different than some other people. Some other people, it's like they start their business and it's like, oh my God, this has to work because this is what I want to do. It's good my livelihood. For you guys, thank goodness it was a situation where you all liked it, right? And you see, let's see if this works, and apparently it is working. So congratulations.
Fantastic. And so before we head out, what's the best way for people to get in touch with you guys?
Really, the website, CvilleTreeService.com, and they can request work through there, and Trip will promptly get in touch with them and schedule a quote.
Yeah,
Fantastic.
yeah, it is pretty easy. You go to
CvilleTreeService.com.
and then you hit, I think it's quote, and you tell them what you want, and then you get an email right back, and then eventually Trip calls you and say, all right, I'm here. What,
Let's do it.
what do you want to
And
do?
the what you want done doesn't have to be particularly eloquent or even accurate.
Trip will figure that
Thank
out.
you.
Well, that's the thing. It's like triple call.
Notice he was looking at me when he said that, right? Like,
What Xavier said, he didn't mention anything about. Oh, goodness. Well, thank you guys both so much for
Thank you
joining us.
guys.
It's been a lot of fun. Real
All right,
pleasure.
thank you.
Have
Thank
both
you so
done it.
much.
We'll have you guys back and we'll rotate and
Yep,
put Trip
yep.
in.
put Trip in, that's right. Let's see what he has to say.
That's right.
For sure. But thank you both so much.
Thank you. and Be
Thank
safe.
you.
That was fun.
Yeah,
It's always,
no, it's good.
it's always amazing just to see the different ways that people get into entrepreneurship,
Into business, that's
into
right.
a business,
That's
right? The
right.
different ways that you can go through to start it, the different paths that you can travel to start a business and be successful at it, and the different lessons that you can learn on the way. And just I loved the emphasis that Martin had on, like, you don't, as an entrepreneur, and I tell this to people a lot, don't undersell yourself.
That's right.
Do not try to get business by being so much less expensive than everyone else that people have the perception then that you must not be very good at what you do.
Well, it's twofold. One is you can have that perception. People might say these guys can't be very good because they're so cheap. And the second one is, okay, they're cheap, but then you realize we're not making any money. In other words, we can't survive like this. So sooner or later, you have to raise your prices. It's like you said, if it's a word of mouth, and it's like, wait a minute, he charged you X and he's charging me this. Why? I thought you said so. It's a balance.
You have to have the confidence in how much you're worth and price accordingly.
Exactly.
And I think people do respect that and understand
I think they do.
that
I
it's
think they do.
worthwhile.
And if I got to say something, because I know Jan, my wife's thinking, why isn't he wearing his jacket? Well, these guys were arborists, right? And so I got to look like an arborist when I'm interviewing an arborist. So I just, sweetheart, I'm not wearing a jacket for that reason.
Well, I was glad, but for once, I am more well dressed.
Oh boy, here
Yeah,
we
my
go.
father, usually the reverse happens, but today I was the one that
Yeah,
was,
but I look good in
fancier
pinstripes,
dressed.
and it's that
You do
Yankey
look good.
thing.
It is that
pinstripes.
Yankee
All
thing.
right.
What can we resist? That Yankee thing. So, Nicholas Serpi commenting, very well said. Quality work and value prices.
There you are.
That
Exactly.
Nicholas was
I
there.
wonder what
and
he's
definitely-
thinking of.
And then, and oh goodness, Rosalia said, we will certainly send you, Rosalia, we will send you the number for Revelation Vineyard to get that
some
wine
wine.
over to New York. And for those of you who want to, be sure to check out Revelation Vineyard. They're on Facebook. You can see them. They shared today's story. You'll be able to, today's show, you'll be able to find them and be sure to check them out and enjoy some of that wine. And then when your tree falls while you're drinking wine, you can call Charlotte's
Well,
Motion Service.
if it's falling, they've already fell.
If it's falling,
too late.
it's too late.
That's right.
But this has been a lot of fun. It's been a blast today just to learn all this new information. Really a great time. And next week is going to be fun as well. We are going to have on Lily DeRay.
Lily.
So she is
Okay.
she is a fantastic artist.
She's dynamite, isn't
She's
she?
dynamite.
She's
She's great to interview.
real
She's got business
firecracker, I call
acumen. She's a great musician. She writes her own songs. She plays them. She's been playing at Common House.
Okay.
Once I know she was on. I think last night she was on the sky roof of Common House,
Okay.
the co-working space and membership there. So that's going to be exciting. She's going to come to talk about what she does.
Is she
her
going to sing or is
freelance
she going
work.
to talk to us? That's what I want to know.
She's definitely going to talk to us. The
Okay.
singing will be entirely up to her. We will not force
Well, she's not shy.
her.
so
She's not shy,
I
so
don't
she
think
may
we'd
well
have to worry
bring
about
the
that.
guitar. So you'll be in for a treat next week. Just another member of a great entrepreneurship family.
Absolutely.
Olga Morse, her grandma, the founder of Forward Adelante. Fernando Garay, her brother, we
That's
had
right.
on from House of Cuts.
Exactly.
So it's going to be a blast, I think, next week. And so be sure to check out next week's show. Be sure to share today. If you have any other news on resources for entrepreneurs, any Latino entrepreneurs you want us to interview, to let us know. Send us
Let
a
us know.
message. You can always message us at Today Mañana. You can message me at Alexander Erpe on Facebook. You can give us a call. You can go to emergentfs.com, todaymañana.com to find all the shows, including today's later on. As always, it's such a pleasure to have you all watching us. Thanks again to Cristel Noel our powering sponsor. Thank you to Emergent Financial Services, our presenting sponsor, and Forward Adelante as always. Thanks, Judah, for running. He had a tough show today. I mean, we used all 4 spots
Exactly.
at the end there.
He had to sit everybody and make sure they're talking into the microphone. I'm sure he's thinking about me. Is he talking to the microphone? But anyway.
Is it Xavier doing a good job
Exactly.
today? So thank you, Judah. Thank you, Jerry. Thanks to the I Love Seville Network, which is the one place you can find Today Mañana. And as always, thank you to the viewers without whom there would be no show. It would just be 2 Cuban guys sitting in a empty studio with Judah chatting it up with nobody watching. So thank you all so much for joining us. And until we see you next week, hasta mañana.